And welcome back to Out and About, today's Spring Arts and Entertainment Preview. We're continuing our discussion on Act One's production of Angels in America with Jim Manning, Matt Moran, and Greg Szatkowski. We're so looking forward to this production, and I love, for those just tuning in right now, the fact you're doing for the first time in Nashville parts 1 and 2 together. So we talked about character, we talked about a little synopsis of the shows. Let's talk about the challenge of actually putting this into play. So what was your first thought and your first fear moment?
The moment I read some of the descriptions of the effects in the show, there's a reason the show doesn't get done very often because of the breadth of it, but also there's probably 30 plus locations in the show and a lot of special effects. I mean, it's almost written to be unproducible. And I'm designing the set as well and handling a lot of how those are happening. And we're going with a really human look for the show to make it kind of the right size for this theater and this space. And so it is a huge challenge that we're trying to make manageable.
Now, talk about challenges. I mean, even the characters, because as we were talking, characters recur in each part. So Matt, tell me, when you first looked at the character of Lewis, what did you feel the challenges were going to be?
You know, I actually auditioned for this character because I felt like I related to him so little.
Oh.
There was another character whose story I had walked out a little bit, and that one felt too easy for me. So I thought, I typically survive best when I'm throwing myself out of the boat and giving myself a scare. So with regard to the character specifically, I think he's highly political, which I typically am not. So it was interesting to jump into that side of it. And just the fact that he was living in 1985 as a 32-year-old, you know, I was a lot younger at that point than 32. So it was interesting from that perspective. I love the fact that the verbiage is so dense and really interesting in that sense. It takes a while for you to really sort of ingest it and grasp what the depth of the meaning in it. Once you get a sense of it, though, you become hungry for more of it, and so I've really enjoyed that process. It's unlike any other part I've ever played.
All right, so Greg, kind of the same question for you, though. I mean, what were the challenges when you looked at Pryor and you said, "Oh my gosh, what?"
Yeah, I don't know. I wanted to be honest, you know. So I don't know if I'm able to pull it off. And you know, I guess I can disclose this. I'm a straight man, so playing a gay man is challenging. And I don't want it to be stereotypical, and I want it to be honest. So, and Pryor's a complex character. They all are. So. I think we all have our work cut out for us, yeah.
Now you look at the script when you first picked it up, and what did you feel just literally from the script itself? What was the things that attracted you to it? What were the things that scared you about it?
These are real people, you know. There's a lot of humanity in Tony Kushner's writing. Like you feel these characters, you know, and the next thing is to hope to embody them, you know, and bring those words to life. And I think Kushner does that really well, you know.
Now, Matt, we were talking a little bit off camera before the interview started, and you mentioned the fact, because I was asking you, you know, what it was like to work with Kushner's words. You even mentioned a little Shakespearean in there, so kind of tell me about that.
Well, at first read, speaking for myself, I didn't necessarily understand all of the dialogue, so there was a lot of research that I had to do, more so than any other part I've ever played in film or on stage. So it was interesting in that sense. And then just sort of getting a sense for the fact that every ellipses, every single piece of dialogue that's in there, and every punctuation matters. And you don't realize it until you get somewhere down the journey, and then you realize, oh, that's why he did that.
Right.
And so it's really interesting from that perspective. I personally have never played another part where, you know, the dialogue was that specific, and where once you memorize it, you realize I need to stick to this and figure out a way to make it real, and like Greg said, make it really honest.
Right. Now, Jim, we've got about a minute left. I want to make sure that we kind of touch on the cast. You've got an amazing cast, so talk a little bit about that.
Terrific, and both, we have two amazing casts with both shows. Megan Utek is in my cast, Jeff Davin, Megan Kimbrough is in part 2. Trying to think of who else is in part
Bradley
2.
Moore.
Bradley Moore is in
Bradley
part 1.
Moore, Rachel Sweeney.
In part 2, and Kat Arnold is in part 2, and so it's kind of a who's who of Nashville actors.
Which and also, I mean, some people look at this and think that it's men only, but there's three women in each cast because they were actually writing for a specific troupe of actors when they originally wrote the show. Yeah. Now I want to make sure that we get the information up so people can get to this show, because it's going to be a great show. There it is on your screen right there, Angels in America. So make sure that you head there March 11th through the 25th. It's at the Dark Horse on Charlotte Avenue. For tickets, act1online.com. Make sure you make plans to see both parts 1 and 2. Now the interesting thing is, again, if you're just tuning in, you can actually see parts 1 and 2 together on Saturday. Go to the matinee, and then in the evening go to part 2, or you can split it up into evenings, because you will be doing like part 1 on a Tuesday,
2 on Wednesday, 1 on Thursday, 2 on Friday.
All right, I can hardly wait to see this. So hats off to you guys for putting it up.
Thank you, Chuck.
Thanks so much.
All right, glad you were here. All right, well, that is all the time we have to talk about Angels in America, but there's a lot more to talk about. We're going to be talking about Mapping Stars with Don Schlosser from Nashville and Harmony, so come on back with us.